you hear the word lipid or maybe fat, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For a lot of us, it's probably diet or calories or health. But honestly, that's just scratching the surface. What if I told you these molecules are actually the secret architects of life itself? I mean, they form the very boundaries of our cells and act as our body's most efficient fuel. All right, let's get into it. To kick things off, our source material does something I think is really cool. It actually gives fat a voice. This little poem nails its personality perfectly. With water, I say, touch me not. To the tongue, I am tasteful. In excess, I am dangerous. It perfectly sets the stage for the complex, two-sided nature of lipids we're about to explore. So, from a chemistry perspective, what is a lipid? Well, the main thing, the one characteristic that ties them all together is their relationship with water. Lipids are hydrophobic, which is really just a fancy way of saying they don't mix with water. Think oil and vinegar. And here's another key thing. Unlike other big players like proteins or carbs, they aren't polymers. They're not made of long repeating chains. They're this super diverse family of molecules, all united by one thing. They just don't like water. Okay, to really get a handle on these molecules, we're going to go on a little journey from the tiny building blocks all the way up to the big picture. So here's our roadmap. We'll start with what lipids are, then look at their basic blueprint. After that, we'll see how they become your body's fuel tank, how they build life's flexible walls, and we'll even meet some super specialized lipid molecules. And then we'll zoom out for the grand finale. All right, let's kick off with part one. What are lipids? The best way to tackle such a huge group is to get organized. So let's sort them into their four major families. So here we go. This gives us a fantastic overview. First up, we've got these simple lipids. These are the ones you know well. Fats, oils, the stuff you cook with. Then things get a little more, well, complex. These lipids have extra bits and pieces attached to do specialized jobs. Next are the derived lipids, which include some real heavy hitters like steroid hormones. And finally, there's a catch-all miscellaneous group for a few others. We'll be bumping into examples from all of these groups as we go. And that brings us right to our next section, the fatty acid blueprint. I want you to think of these as the fundamental Lego bricks. They're the starting point for building many of the bigger, more complicated lipids. Okay, I know you've heard these terms a million times, saturated, unsaturated. But what's the real difference? It's all about shape. It really is that simple. Saturated fats are perfectly straight molecules. This lets them pack together really tightly, which is why they're solid at room temperature. Just think of a stick of butter. But unsaturated fats have at least one double bond in their chain, and that creates a kink, a bend. These kinks make it impossible for the molecules to stack up neatly, and that's why they're liquid, like olive oil. And check this out. This shows you exactly what that kink looks like. On the left, you see oleic acid. See that distinct V shape? That's the natural cis form. That is the kink we're talking about. Now look at the one next to it, the trans fat. The double bond is still there, but the molecule is basically straight. And this tiny difference in shape changes everything. That natural kink is what keeps our cell membranes fluid and our oils liquid. It's a huge deal. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Our bodies are incredible chemical factories, right? But even they have their limits. They can't make everything. A couple of these fatty acids, like linoleic and linolenic acid, are called essential. And essential means just that. We absolutely have to get them from our food because our bodies just don't have the tools to build them from scratch. Okay, so we've got our fatty acid building blocks. Now what? Well, let's move into section 3 and see how our body uses them to build its main fuel tank. We're going to assemble a molecule called a triosylcule. Think of it like a really simple construction project. You start with one piece, a glycerol molecule. That's your backbone. Then you snap on the first fatty acid. Click. Then the second. Click. And finally, a third. And boom, just like that, you've built a triacylglycerol, which is the main way we store fat in our bodies. And here it is, the finished product. This molecule is our body's main fuel reserve, and boy is it efficient. It's an incredibly concentrated way to store energy. In fact, our source points out that the fat reserves in an average person could literally power their body for 2 to 3 months. It's like a super long-lasting, rechargeable battery pack we all carry around. This chart is a great way to see how the fats and oils we use every day are different. Now, iodine number sounds technical, but don't worry about it. It's just a way to measure how unsaturated an oil is. A higher number means more kinks, and you can see it plain as day. Coconut oil is super low, meaning it's very saturated. Olive oil is in the middle, and linseed oil, it's off the charts unsaturated. This chemical difference is literally the reason why some are solid and some are liquid. All right, we've talked about fuel, so now let's pivot to structure. This next section is all about life's flexible walls, and we're going to dive into the incredible power of phospholipids. So, this molecule, the phospholipid, is a game changer. It's kind of like that triacylglycerol we just built, but one of the fatty acid tails gets swapped out for a phosphate group. This gives the molecule a split personality. It has a head that loves water and two tails that hate water. And that dual nature is its superpower. Because when you drop these into water, they automatically arrange themselves into a double layer, with all the tails hiding on the inside. That bilayer is the fundamental structure of every single cell membrane in your body. They are literally the architects of life's containers. But hold on. Their job doesn't just stop at building walls. Phospholipids are the ultimate multitaskers. As you can see here, they help us absorb fat, they act as surfactants in our lungs to keep them from collapsing with every breath, they're the starting point for powerful signaling molecules, and they even get involved in blood clotting. They are incredibly dynamic and just absolutely vital. Which brings us to some real specialists. These are the lipid molecules that have evolved to do very specific, very high-level jobs that go way beyond just being a wall or a fuel tank. And this is where you really see how versatile lipids can be. They aren't just bricks and fuel. Some of them, like steroid hormones, are powerful messengers, traveling through your body to control everything from metabolism to development. Others are essential vitamins, A, D, E, and K, acting as tiny managers for countless processes inside our cells. Okay, time to zoom out. Let's get to section 6, the big picture. We've seen all the different parts, now let's put it all together and really understand why lipids matter so much. So let's just recap the highlights. We've seen that lipids are the body's ultimate multitaskers. They're our most concentrated fuel reserve. They are the key structural part of every cell membrane we have. They're our only source for those essential fatty acids. They provide the insulation that protects our organs, and they act as critical metabolic regulators, like hormones. I mean, life as we know it just couldn't exist without them. Which, of course, brings us back to that one big question everybody always asks. So, after all of this, is fat good or bad? And as you've probably figured out by now, the answer is it's complicated. Lipids aren't the villain. They are fundamentally, absolutely essential to life. The key, just like that little poem hinted at right from the start, is all about context and balance. It said it best, in excess, I am dangerous. It's about getting the right type of fat in the right amount. That's what really matters. So, I want to leave you with this final thought to chew on. We saw how a tiny little kink in a molecule's chain, just a few atoms in a different position, is the difference between solid butter and liquid oil. That's a massive change in function from a tiny change in shape. So the question is, what other huge biological processes, from the way we think to the way we fight disease, all come down to the precise tiny shape of a single molecule?